Okay, so tell me what are some of the things that you've learned on your trip to West Texas? What are some of the needs that have been shared with you all for our region?
We've had a wonderful trip to West Texas so far. So I'm actually from West Texas. I am an El Paso native, and in fact, the first native El Pasoan ever to sit on the Supreme Court of Texas. So El Paso and West Texas feel like home for me in many ways. We have had a great trip here so far. We've just come from talking to a group of Midland lawyers about what practice has been like during the pandemic and how courts are adjusting now that we are coming out of the pandemic, but have learned some really important ways to improve and create efficiencies and improve access to justice for many people who cannot afford to take time away from work necessarily to come and meet their obligations in court. So we're in this big process of figuring out what we are going to do with Zoom, how we're going to implement it into law practice going forward, because it has helped many Texans to have, to be able to connect with courts short of having to take the day off from work and actually go there to appear before a judge. And so we're trying to study ways to make the courts, the judiciary, more efficient and accessible to all Texans. And so part of our trip here was to hear from folks in West Texas about how courts are operating and how we can improve. And so that's one of the goals here, is just continuous improvement of the judicial system.
That did not occur to me. The pandemic changed a lot of things, especially in the way that we work, but I didn't consider perhaps some permanent changes with the court and the way the court system works.
Well, all of that's under study, Tatum. We formed a task force to study these questions and ask ourselves, are there some efficiencies to gain, are there ways we can improve the administration of justice and access to justice for all Texans by keeping some Zoom practices, keeping some aspects of the judiciary available to the public on Zoom. And of course, we don't want to do away with our traditions of having a jury trial in person and having jurors come and do their very critically important role in person. We're not doing away with all of that, but we do think there are some ways to improve efficiencies and, again, access to justice for all Texans.
Well, as a fellow West Texan, what are some of the West Texas values that you bring to the court? A lot of times and I'm sure you've heard this, but being out here in West Texas, a lot of times we feel isolated or so far away. Austin, even though it's not that far away, it sometimes feels that way. So, what do you wish West Texans would know that, hey, you are represented not only on this court, but we see you. How do you bring that to your job?
I think that's a great way to put it. As I said, I'm the first native El Pasoan on the Supreme Court, and for me, it was really important and really an honor when Governor Abbott had a press release announcing that he was going to appoint me to the court. We flew to El Paso to do it there, and so it was really meaningful to do it at my high school, in my community, and I think it's just a good thing and a good practice to make all of Texans feel connected. There should not be, while there is a long geographical distance between us, sometimes when I come into Texas from Louisiana, I look at the sign that says it's 857 miles to El Paso, and I think, boy, that's a long way. But we should be more connected and not have geographical distance separate us, because we are unified as Texans, and so I like to bring that message back home when I go to El Paso and also here in Midland.
I love that. What else? Last question. What's something that you want people at home to know? Maybe that aren't so familiar with what the Supreme Court, the Texas Supreme Court does, and y'all's role in our government?
It's a great question, and what I want Texans to understand is that courts are not some far off, institution doing stuff that doesn't matter to you. What courts are doing, what the Supreme Court is doing in its everyday work has real, important, meaningful, big impact on all Texans. And so it ought to matter to you who your judges are. And so I would encourage Texans to just get more engaged in the process of judicial selection. We vote for our judges in partisan elections here. And so I would say, judges can impact everything really quickly, a contract, your property rights, your family, all of that. And so I would just encourage Texans to get engaged in it's really self-governance and exercising their right to vote and have a voice in who your judges are.